How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Mars. That was the day. It's February 15th, 2021, and today we're obviously going to focus on the extremely major snowstorm that's currently impacting the southeast, and it's expected to impact the northeast and midwest with over 12 inches of snow in some areas. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current radar, and you see that Texas is under fairly moderate to heavy snow, I should say. In Houston, the heavy snow is right at your doorstep pretty much. It's just west of you guys, and I do expect that heavy snow swath to move further eastward. There might be a little bit of mixing, especially since there's going to be a little bit of a Gulf of Mexico influence regarding the temperature of the air temperature, because obviously the Gulf of Mexico water is still in the 60s, upper 50s, which will rise up that air temperature and might make it a little bit more difficult to forecast how much exact snow to expect in that area. But you see that. Let me go back because for some reason this radar zoomed in. Could I go back? No, I don't think so. But yeah, let me just move on to the Futurecast radar because it sort of gives the same idea of what's going on currently. And we're beginning to see that snow swath extend to Indiana, Ohio. And however, I want you guys to be aware right around the Ohio River Valley. This is not the same snow swath that's expected to bring the majority of snow to you guys, as the majority of the snow will be located right around this low pressure system that's currently in Texas and Louisiana, and will eventually move up north thanks to the influence of a southeast ridge that's going to steer it up northward. So do not expect that this light snow will be what you experience over the next several hours, because it's going to get a lot worse. If we take a look at the Futurecast radar, so by the time you're watching this video, it's probably going to be right around 1 p.m. So I'm going to move forward at that time frame, and you see that the snow is already right around just north of Memphis, heaviest snow. It's approaching Kentucky, and Tennessee is deep in the heavy snow. And you see that it's also approaching a lot of the Ohio River Valley states, extending from Indiana, Illinois, and even to Missouri, where you're experiencing some snow, with the heavy snow closer to the rain and snow line, where all that convergence is where the Arctic air and the warm Gulf of Mexico air are converging in this region to create the heaviest snow right around the rain snow line, which is typical for a lot of these snowstorms. The convergent boundary, or the convergent zone, is usually just right around the rain snow line, because that's where the starkest temperature contrast is located. But if we continue to move forward beyond there, you see that the first snow showers have reached the northeast at this point. However, again, like I said, this isn't the heaviest snow you're going to receive from this snowstorm, as it's still far from the heaviest you're going to see. And then by 6 p.m. on Monday, right around sunset, you see that the snow extends to Ohio, where Columbus is very well in it. Indianapolis is under some moderate to heavy snow at times. Even Detroit is involved a little bit. And then you see that snow is affecting now a lot of upstate New York, northern Pennsylvania, right around 9 p.m. on Monday. And what's also interesting is that we're seeing a lot of ice as well, and it's even beginning right around Louisiana. And you see that it's going to last for several hours over the same area of Louisiana, which isn't typical for a winter storm to come that far south, let alone like the southern coast of Louisiana, not even the northern portion of Louisiana. So you guys need to stay very well prepared for this, because I know a lot of you guys in the southeast probably aren't used to seeing snowstorms or ice storms like this. But do not underestimate an ice storm, and do not underestimate a quarter of an inch, a half an inch of ice, because that's considered a lot of ice that could cause a lot of power outages and could cause very slick road conditions. And you need to definitely stay aware of that. But like saying, the northeast, the ice is at its heaviest right around West Virginia, and now it's approaching Pennsylvania, and will eventually approach the New York City metropolitan area and New England eventually, and moving even more forward in the forecast. You see by 1 a.m. you see a lot of upstate New York is just deep in a winter storm, and we're seeing a lot of ice right in the New York City metropolitan area. And it seems like the low pressure is going to move a little bit further to the west. So the good news is along the Interstate 95 corridor is that you guys won't experience potentially maybe the worst case scenario where the low pressure stays a little bit further to the east and it's going to be an all ice event all the way through, as some rain is going to entrain it once this low pressure system continues to move north, bringing a lot of that southerly convergent air molecules further northward to bring a lot of that heat up northward as well, to change a lot of that ice into rain eventually. So the good news is that there might be a chance that some of that ice melts going into Tuesday, but Monday night into or very early Tuesday morning is just going to be treacherous for you guys right around the Interstate 95 corridor extending to Philadelphia, New York City, New England as well will experience the ice. And then for a lot of the interior Northeast, especially upstate New York and northern Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine, this will be an all snow event where over a foot of snow is currently expected in some areas. So at this point, the forecast is pretty certain. It's unlikely that we're going to see any major shifts in the forecast, either east or west. We're only about 24 to 36 hours out from the actual event from the Northeast. So any changes most likely will be minor, but again, like I said, any small changes could potentially make a big difference in your forecast. If this shifts 20 miles to the east, and maybe New York City and a lot of the Interstate 95 corridor gets in the ice a little bit more, which would be the worst case scenario and would bring potentially over a half an inch of ice in that scenario or right around there. However, if this moves further westward to where it's more of a rain event, 20 miles westward, then we're likely to see less ice, and there is that possibility that maybe you won't get ice at all, but it's very slim at this point. At this point, right around the Interstate 95 corridor, it's likely that you're going to experience ice from this, and this extends to Tennessee and Louisiana, where it's inevitable you guys are going to experience ice from this, especially since we're only less than 24 hours out. At that point, we don't really need the computer models to make any sort of short-term forecast within 24 hours out. So this is going to be major, and no major shifts in the forecast should be expected. Both the computer models are agreeing for the most part at this point. We're pretty certain with the forecast, so just prepare for a big snowstorm and ice storm all throughout the East Coast and along the Midwest. So Ohio Valley especially will experience a lot of snow, and you guys need to prepare for this. And you see the European model is very similar, where it puts the storm 24 hours out, and they're pretty much identical. Not a slight difference in the low pressure system, but for the most part completely identical. So there's just a lot of certainty with this storm. So I wouldn't bet on this storm completely missing out, because at this point, if you're forecasted to get 8 to 12 inches of snow, you need to expect 8 to 12 inches of snow. If you're forecasted to get half an inch of ice, you need to expect a half an inch of ice at this point, because it's fairly certain you guys will experience it at this point. And in terms of the ice forecast, this could potentially be just very bad, where a lot of areas in the yellows are expected to get over a quarter of an inch of ice. And you see that in some areas you could experience over a half an inch of ice, especially in northern Louisiana. This extends to Texas as well, where you could experience over a tenth of an inch of ice, which still could cause havoc for a lot of people. And you see that even extending to the Northeast. Now New Jersey is under the yellows, where you could experience up to a half an inch of ice. And in Kentucky, you could experience maybe up to a 3/4 of an inch of ice to maybe 1 inch of ice, which is just extremely devastating, and will cause just a lot of chaos on the roads. And also when it comes to the branches falling and power outages, which could definitely be an issue regarding this ice storm. And it's unlikely that we're going to see any major changes from this forecast. And in terms of the overall forecast based off my snowfall prediction, based off of the computer models prediction, so still a large area of over 6 to 12 inches extending from pretty much Louisiana all the way to the northeast. This sign is blocking the 6 to 12 inch category in Arkansas and Louisiana. I should have planned it out making this map, but yeah, just expect 6 to 12 inches in Arkansas and Louisiana. But 3 to 6 inches, expect just the northwest of that, and then 1 to 3 just the northwest of that. But still, the forecast hasn't changed much. It isn't expected to change much. We're pretty certain that this will be the case. So you guys need to prepare for the Northeast and the Midwest for a major snowstorm. But however, this isn't the only snowstorm we're tracking, and obviously, as you can see on this map, I wrote next major snowstorm with this low pressure system, and another major snowstorm is likely to happen and impact a lot of the areas that are getting impacted right now in the Northeast, where you could experience another 6 to 12 inches of snow on top of what you've already experienced. So let's take a look at the European model, see how much snow it expects from this second snowstorm, because at this point, the first snowstorm, we're pretty certain that it's going to be right around 6 to 12 inch category. So I'm going to show you guys the snowfall forecast regarding this first snowstorm, just to give a better idea of how much additional snow the European model is forecasting with this next snowstorm. So as you can see from this first snowstorm, a good area 6 to 12 inches throughout the interior Northeast, while just south of that, there's barely any snow. But if we move forward to when the snowstorm is expected to pass beyond 5 days out, you see that now a lot of areas further southward are getting involved, where currently the New York City metropolitan area is experiencing over 6 inches of snow. Philadelphia as well, just to the northwest. Washington D.C. is involved, and even a foot in some areas in the extreme western portions of West Virginia and Maryland. And you see that another additional, I'd say 6 to 10 inches of snow is expected in the interior Northeast again. And if we take, and even in areas further southward, such as Kentucky, is getting more involved with this storm, and it's definitely something to keep track of headed into later during the week, where we could see another snowstorm. But let's take a look at what the European model is forecasting regarding the radar, and you see that we're going around 4 days out. So there's still definitely uncertainty with this when we're talking about a storm 4 days out, as there still could be drastic changes in the forecast at this point. However, the fact that both the European model and the GFS model are sort of agreeing in sort of the formation of this storm and the current tracking of this storm, it's giving me more confidence that this will happen, and this will happen in this sort of fashion. Maybe there could be drastic changes regarding the exact track and maybe the timing of the storm. Maybe this moves a little bit further eastward, which would allow a lot more of the eastern states to get more affected by snow, or a little bit westwards, where it'll affect more of the Midwest and the Great Lakes region. So there's still uncertainty regarding this, and it really all depends on where this ridge is located, and really how much northwesterly winds are going to be associated with this current snowstorm, because the northwesterly winds will determine the orientation of the jet stream headed 4 days out. And if the northwest winds and this pressure gradient between this ridge and the slow pressure system end up being a little stronger than expected, then we could see a little bit more of a jet stream dip, and that will sort of force the storm to maybe meander south a little bit and then move directly to the north, which would mean not only a stronger storm that's a little bit more broad thanks to the increased unstable air, but also a track, I'd say, further to the eastward in that scenario where the jet stream dip is a little bit more pronounced. At this point, however, it's a more westward track. If we compare the European model and the GFS model 84 hours from now, you're going to see that there definitely are some differences with the forecast. So 84 hours from now, as you can see with the European model, it's taking the low pressure system a little bit further south than the GFS model. However, in terms of their their orientation when it comes to the radar forecast, they're pretty much right around the ballpark where we're seeing an extending area of snow on the western side. It isn't a lot of snow, barely any snow, I should say, but the fact that there's at least some snow and then a little bit snow up to the north of this rain and thunderstorm swath shows that they're at least somewhere around the ballpark in terms of their similarities in forecasts, and that's definitely something we want to see because that increases the confidence of the forecast. But we just definitely need to just keep and watch for this first snowstorm and see how it affects the orientation of this low pressure system. And however, we begin to see the disparity between the two computer models as we head further out into the forecast run, where now the European is diverting from the GFS's models forecast, where it's now moving a little bit further eastward than the GFS model, which would mean more snow, I'd say, for the eastern states rather than the Midwest. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the jet stream reacts and what will happen. And we just need to keep a close eye on this ridge, the jet stream orientation, and this first snowstorm regarding how strong northwest winds are to determine the track of this next snowstorm and to determine how heavy the snow will be. But at this point, I'd say it's probably more likely than not we're going to see another major snowstorm out of this. I don't think it's going to weaken or maybe just completely go out to sea and not affect anyone. Just the fact that both the computer models are just very persistent on bringing a major snowstorm to the East Coast. I think this next one, headed into Friday, will be our next big snowstorm for the Northeast, and you guys definitely at least need to be aware of it because it's gonna come on top of the snow you're already experiencing right now. So it's something you need to be aware of headed into later during the week, because you guys could experience another snowstorm after just experiencing this one. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. I hope you guys have a good day.